Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of My Big Fat Junk Drawer. We're back again. It's hot outside. Mike is here yet again.
Yay!
Picking up the slack, visiting the basement.
Begging for sponsors.
Yeah. So, what have you been up to this week? Anything fun before we get into this?
Anything fun? Well, we went and saw Deadpool today, and that was pretty fun. That was really fun.
It was a funny movie.
It was really funny.
I have to say, that was the first Marvel movie that I've enjoyed in quite some time.
Oh, well, they told you that was going to be because the MCU was killing it all and everything was boring.
Boring.
Ryan Reynolds actually told you that right there in the movie.
I know.
That was pretty funny.
He wasn't wrong.
He just ripped into everything. That was pretty funny.
I know. Well, on that note, let's get right into it because I know you've brought something today. So, Mike, I will ask the question that is always asked on this program. What did you bring from your junk drawer today?
Today, I brought a VHS tape of Indiana Jones, the original Raiders of the Lost Ark movie. Honestly, it's a VHS tape, so if anyone's listening, they probably don't even know what a VHS tape is any longer. But way, way, way back in 1991, if you bought a hamburger at McDonald's, they gave you a copy of the VHS tape. So I actually had, if I recall correctly, I had all three movies that were at the time with the Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, and the third one was Sean Connery. I can't remember what it's called.
Last Crusade.
Oh, The Last Crusade.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. I believe I had all of them, but since VHS tapes have gone the way of the dodo bird, I don't know what to do with it. I don't think anyone's collecting VHS tapes, but when I talked to my dad the other day, he's like, oh, we probably have some VHS tapes that are worth a lot of money. I'm like, there's VHS tapes worth money?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you had that backstory to it, maybe you could find some sort of collector, but that's stretching it.
The only thing I could think that people would collect is like the original Star Wars, where Han Solo shot first.
Oh, yeah.
They played the Yub Nub song in the Return of the Jedi that
Still
disappeared.
Sour about taking out Yub Nub.
I always thought that was funny. They took out Yub Nub and added that pan music that you hear at the mall, or that you heard in the mall in like 2003.
Yeah.
It's like that little pan flute.
I was just glad that other people refer to that song as Yub Nub, like I did. Yub Nub!
I thought it was funny. Me and you walked out of the theater watching Avatar, and we walked out singing the Yub Nub song because it totally felt like that's what they were doing.
It felt like a Yub Nub moment.
It did. All green and blue people that were 19 feet tall.
Yeah.
Talk about overpopulation. They're so big, they can't get in apartments around here.
Well, let's get back to your movies. So back then, movie tie-ins to fast food was like a huge deal too. Remember when Batman 1989, Michael Keaton came out, McDonald's was all over that. I totally remember that whole moment where that movie was super tied to like food and everything.
Didn't they do that like all the way back even to like Top Gun? Like they parked a plane in front of a Burger King or something like that. And they said, feel the need for speed. And it was two other guys. It wasn't Tom Cruise and Anthony Edwards. It was two other dudes that parked their plane in front of a Burger King. And
yes,
they'd been doing that a lot. I mean, I think someone like Spielberg or somewhere in that genre of directors were looking for a new way to make money.
Oh yeah,
movies.
For sure.
Or because the movies cost so much money to make, they're just looking for a way to cut expenses. I don't know for sure because obviously I'm not a pencil pusher, but
yeah. Well, I feel like our generation was the toy generation. We had the toys for the movies, and then we were also like the McDonald's generation with the Happy Meals and things. So I guess they just used us as a
way to just keep the money rolling. It was like,
we
crank.
Swayed.
What did we put out? Crank out some more pieces of plastic made in China.
And what are we doing now? Buying stuff we bought when we were kids because they're bringing it back.
I'm not buying that stuff. I can't afford like action figures. No. I heard like the Star Wars stuff, if you buy it like with the original box. Without the original box, it's stupid priced. There's a specific Han Solo with a really big head. There's a Boba Fett that has like the rocket shoots out of the back of his back, which never happened in the movie anyway. But somehow there's a toy that does it. Or Star Wars toys have gone the way of like whatever they can make money off of. Like
Oh,
they're
I feel like they throw any character in the box now. Like you don't even have to know what it is. They just throw it in there and go buy it.
I used to think it was funny they sold like that walrus looking dude that got killed by Obi-Wan Kenobi in the cantina. They sold that guy, but not the other dude that was doing all the talking. The one that was like, I'm wanted on 1900 planets. No, they didn't make that guy, but they probably have now. But they gave them all character names. Like Walrus Man was Walrus Man. There was a hammerhead guy that did just flashed across the screen like a camera just rolled through a scene. And here's all these weirdos with weird faces and heads. And they made a toy for like every single one of them. But not the dude that Obi-Wan cut his arm off and killed. Made like 3 Obi-Wans with a vinyl jacket and that sword that came out of the arm because they really couldn't come up with a lightsaber back then. They didn't have the technology they have now with the 16 points of articulation and the wrists all move. And
Oh, yeah.
I always thought it was funny that they made toys first, then made the show. Like He-Man. That wasn't anything. They just produced a bunch of toys and they're like, okay, let's sell these toys by making a cartoon. Transformers, I don't think there was Transformers anything. Then all of a sudden, like, here's Optimus Prime. Well, who the hell's Optimus Prime? Watch the show.
Same with Strawberry Shortcake. It was a doll before it was a show.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to make more money, I guess. Here's a television show. We already proved that we could sell this toy, so there's already a built-in audience for the toy. Let's make the show. And then the show lasts like 2 years, but the toys, they keep selling them for years and years and years beyond that.
Yeah. So what other VHS movies do you have?
Well, the one that I think might be valuable that my dad keeps talking about, original Star Wars, like I think I just mentioned, with Han shooting first and the Yub Nub song and like all those scenes that they've added. Like the Star Wars that we can see now, like pretty much the only one has like the land speeder, Luke going into Mos Eisley Cantina. There's like a whole city that they drive through now. It used to just be desert. Here we're at the bar.
Yeah, well,
they added all this stuff.
George Lucas got handsy and had to go in and nitpick.
He realized that his movies are made for kids and that generations.
That's what happens when you give the artists their stuff back and they're just like, well, let me just fix this one little thing right here.
Remember
like the whole thing is different.
Remember the legend? I don't know if it's true because I've never watched like a recent version of E.T., but E.T., those Secret Service guys that were all over. They all had guns.
They took the guns out.
Yeah, they took the guns out, replaced them with like walkie-talkies. I think South Park ripped that all to shreds. Like they just had guys with walkie-talkies all the time go pew pew pew. But yeah, the toys and all the concept, they got to make sure that they got to be politically correct. Even in 2001 and 2005.
Yeah.
They were already pushing that. So like, let's get rid of the guns. Let's give them walkie-talkies and air guns, I guess, or whatever. They're spraying stuff all over the place to kill the weeds. Just like this grass outside. Those guys came in and like sprayed weed killer on the grass. There's like patches of grass that are like totally dead. You can totally see where they just went, oh shoot, killed my grass. Bastards.
I want to be like Wolverine. Do you have ADD?
Yes. I know. Have you been checked for ADD? Yes, probably.
This Wolverine is my favorite. I like him better than in the X-Men.
Yeah, that's hilarious. That's what you said in the car. It was funny because you're just like, he was always angry and barely talked that much and everything was gruff. Now he's still gruff, but he's like telling jokes and he's like ripping into Deadpool and calling him an idiot and saying things like, have you been checked for ADD? Shut up now. It's my turn to talk. Those are pretty funny moments.
It is. It's really funny.
It's worth seeing the Deadpool movie. So Marvel, give us a call. We could use some sponsorship cash. We're touting your movie like there's no tomorrow. You're going to make $1 billion off it because of us. So you should give us a chunk of that.
Sure.
You should give us a chunk of that. We'll be happy to take it.
So, since we're talking about movies, what were your top 5 movies growing up as a kid?
Oh my gosh, talking about like your favorite movies is really difficult to do.
Top 5. When you were a kid, though, what was that moment of time, that Gen X moment back when we were
Dude, you're gonna laugh at me, and I totally can't remember the title.
I bet I'll figure it out.
There was a movie with Jodie Foster and Scott Baio. They were kid gangsters, and when they shot people, they shot egg cream pies at each other, and that killed them. So like the whole thing was tailored toward kids. That was the funniest. I couldn't recall seeing anything funnier when I was a little kid.
Who else was in it?
Jodie Foster, Scott Baio. I don't know who any of those other people were, but I like those goofy gangster movies because then there was Johnny Dangerously. Johnny Dangerously was hilarious to me. That guy that's like, you farking ice holes, I'm going to cut off your boils and shove them down your farking throat. That was hilarious. I did a whole show with two other PAs when I was a production assistant on like films and stuff. We did an entire show where we just cussed at each other like that. You fucking ice hole. And like we all had different accents because obviously we're not actors, so we would just screw it up. One time we'd be like French, oh you fucking ice hole, or we'd be Irish or whatever, but we would say it just like that.
Bugsy Malone.
That's it. That's the one.
1976.
Yeah, it's old as shit. I was 4.
You love that movie?
I thought that movie was hilarious. I thought it was great. And they sang and danced in it like idiots. And it was like the whole thing was like, what would a kid think if they were gangsters?
I remember that movie. I don't remember like what it's about. Like seeing it.
I totally think it's so old you could watch it on YouTube without having any subscription or anything like that. I think you could just watch it.
Go ahead. Watch it, Will.
I don't think that it's Jodie Foster's proudest moment.
Probably not.
But she was a child actor doing child actor things. Here, we'll just stuff you in this movie. You'll be funny. You'll be the girl. You'll be the damsel in distress. And the funniest part is like, I haven't seen it in so long. I don't remember a lot of it, but I
bet it's terrible if you tried to watch it now. I bet you're like, why on God's green earth did I ever like this movie?
But it was hilarious. I mean, come on. They have like those whole Tommy guns, like the old 1930s and 40s gangsters. They're pop, 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 and it's just shooting pies.
Is it a fever dream? Why are they shooting pies?
Because they're not shooting bullets, because it's kids. Everyone was a child in that movie. Every gangster, mobster, guy selling a newspaper on a street corner, dude who owned a flower shop, they were all like 13 years old.
So ridiculous. Now I want to do a whole episode about Bugsy Malone.
Bugsy Malone. It's great. You can't not like that movie. You cannot like the people that are in it, but you can't not like the movie. I mean, they didn't swear.
Of course not.
And when you're like 5, 6 years old, this stuff would take you. If I remember correctly, I saw it at like those Wednesday movies that like the $2 theater had for like 50 cents. They played it like every summer. It's like one Wednesday it was Bugsy Malone, and then the next year or the next week it was King Kong. And I went and saw that with Melissa Hupp, and she cried. I was like, "What are you crying for?" Like I said that out loud in the theater. What are you crying for? This thing's destroying the city. They got to kill it. But I was like 6 years old too. And I think it was the one with Jeff Bridges too.
Let me see.
And Jessica Lange, I think. But yeah, she told me she was going to cry before we went to the movies. So apparently she had seen it before.
Let's see. Scott Baio, Florence Garland, Jodie Foster, John Cassisi, Martin Lev, Paul Murphy, Sheridan Earl Russell.
Yeah, they're people that probably didn't go on to do acting that often. Like if they did it all, like child actors, if they're successful, stick around. Child actors that aren't very successful, at least they're smart enough to move on. Yeah, because it's hard to be a child actor and then actually be able to act and still be the cute kid that you were in the movie.
Too funny. Okay, so Bugsy Malone was one.
Yeah, and that was well before Happy Days, Joni Loves Chachi. Like you didn't know who Scott Baio was, but he is the star of the movie.
So what's another one? What's number 2?
Goodness, it's going to be hard. Johnny Dangerously, I was mentioning that. Farkin' Bastage.
So Johnny Dangerously.
Michael Keaton, Joe Piscopo.
Refresh my memory about that one.
Michael Keaton, Joe Piscopo. Michael Keaton was Johnny Dangerously when he did like comedy movies. That was also a gangster flick.
You like the gangster genre.
Oh, yeah, I did. I still do.
In a nutshell, its description is madcap, outlandish, and hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Was it all those things?
It was all those things when I was that kid. How young was I when that movie came out?
This movie...
82?
1984.
Okay, so yeah. So I was 12.
Michael Keaton lives a double life. At home, he's the good apple, looking after his ailing mother, Maureen Stapleton.
Yeah.
And sexually obsessed brother, Tommy. But his not-so-secret life is Johnny Dangerously, an up-and-coming criminal being groomed by local gangster Jocko Dundee, Peter Boyle.
Yeah, Peter Boyle. The Jocko Dundee mob. It was really funny. He was trying to talk his brother out of getting married because his brother was going to become a lawyer. Mm-hmm. He was trying to talk his brother out of becoming married. And he showed him a movie called Your Testicles and You. And it was about having sex and how it made your testicles expand. And they showed all these people in a hospital with like huge sets of balls on
Oh
them.
my gosh. You watched that?
At 12.
Oh dear.
I watched that. I think we had cable then. I don't think I saw it at the theater.
Here, the rating says PG. Well, we didn't have this rating back then, but it's PG-13.
Yeah, well, because it had testicles in you.
I guess.
And then when they're running away from the cops at the end of the movie, they decided to use shelf paper or wallpaper to wallpaper the car.
Mhm.
So they had the dispatcher for the cops was the skipper from Gilligan's Island.
Oh,
So
yeah.
he's on the line like saying, now Johnny Dangerously is in a car. And
Alan Hale.
yeah. Now Johnny Dangerously is in a car and the car is decorated with, and get this, duckies and bunnies, because they'd use shelf paper because they were going to have a kid. So they just kept peeling the shelf paper off while they were trying to escape the police. Come on. That's comedy that you just don't see anymore.
No, you don't.
It's great. The poster's funny. You got Joe Piscopo getting hung on a hook. He goes, you don't hang me on a hook, Johnny. My mother hung me on a hook once. Like he killed his mother. And then he gets slapped in the face and he goes, my brother slapped me in the face once. And then he whips out this gun. They're like talking about like beating and killing the other mob. He whips out this gun from his jacket and the barrel of the gun is like 2 feet long, maybe longer. And he's like, I got a gun. This goes through buses and the school behind it and the building behind that.
Jeez. That's probably another one you can find on YouTube.
It's possible. I think I saw it recently on Netflix, no less.
Probably. It's probably on there.
Netflix does cater to the 40 and plus. No matter how much you think about them having like movies that like are brand new and stuff like that, that they do have a lot of movies that are like for older people because we're the people sitting on our ass watching TV.
Yeah, pretty much. All right. So what's another one?
So that's 2.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. 3 is going to be, I'm going to have to go with Indiana Jones.
Do you
That's
count,
why
do you count that as a package 3 deal?
No,
All
not
Indiana
at all.
Jones?
I find the first one the best one because you didn't
were
know what it was everything.
about.
You didn't know
Yeah.
what it was about. It's called Raiders of the Lost Ark. It just looked like an adventure movie when they're
That's
putting it
right.
out.
And that you should mention that because it wasn't Indiana Jones. It was just Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
That's the title of that movie.
Yeah. You don't know what it is, but you saw Han Solo in it. You're going to try it
Well,
out. It's an
yes.
adventure movie. So
That's what got us in there.
2 thumbs up before I walk in the theater. And then it starts off with the whip and the shadow of Indiana Jones with the hat. Like he doesn't walk in right away. It's just the shadow and the music.
Yeah.
And then boom, you're in.
I'd like to see the first description in a script of that moment where how it's put in writing, like the description of the shadow of this adventurous this man, like because it describes this man with the whip and the hat, and I would just love to read that.
And I just remember like as I got older, like reading things saying that like George Lucas and Steven Spielberg are just B-movie directors that had bigger budgets. So what? My dad would tell you that was like the Indiana Jones movies was like the serials that he would see before a movie started when he was a kid.
Oh, wow.
So you'd see like 10 minutes of the movie, but then next week there'd be another 10 minutes of that movie and then a story would form out of the whole thing.
Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So he would go see like a Humphrey Bogart movie or a James Cagney movie, but there was like 10 minutes of this. And I'm not that old, so I don't know what movies he was talking about. I think he said like Flash Gordon, Shazam, those types of movies. So he would tell me that that's what that was like. I don't care. It was great.
Yeah.
It was too much fun. And you walk out of the theater going, hop-psh. You're like 10 years old. You're like, I got the whip. You don't have anything in your hand at all. Just like the people that walk out of Star Wars movies and do lightsaber duels with nothing in their hands. Then they go home and grab the cardboard thing from the Christmas wrapping paper and beat each other up with those. I got my lightsaber. They make those every time you turn on. I probably still do this. Turn on a flashlight.
Oh, well, that's part of the lexicon. Is part of the whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you get the smaller flashlight, so the light is just condensed, so it's just like a long string light.
At this point, Star Wars is so ingrained in culture. You just can't get away from it. It's just part of it.
Meanwhile, there's so much Star Wars now. Our kid goes, I'm getting tired of Star Wars. There's so much. But when she was a kid, she would watch the first Star Wars a ton. She'd be like, that's no moon, mommy.
Yeah. That's funny.
She'd point right at the Death Star. Right after they say, "That's no moon, mommy," and yell it across the house.
I have I have grown in my liking of Temple of Doom. It was always my least favorite Indiana Jones movie,
Yeah.
but it grows on me. Like I'll watch it if it's on TV. I'll watch it, but it's still not my favorite.
That's okay. My dad told me when we watched Temple of Doom at home one time, there's the scene where the guy reaches into your chest and pulls out your heart. And my dad would tell me, "You could do that." He's like, "They taught us in the army."
No bull.
Come on, man. I could reach through your chest plate, your muscles, and your rib cage to grab a heart and pull it out.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, not at all. But this guy had the magic. He's able to do it. And in Temple of Doom, started out hot. They got lukewarm with Kate.
Oh no, Kate Capshaw.
Yeah, just Spielberg's wife. It got a little lukewarm when they brought that love story in, and I don't know why, because he did so well with Karen Allen in the first one. Brought that in, that got a little slow, and then it ramped up again at the end. I think it's just because they went to somewhere in the jungle and they had to sit down.
Well, it was by accident. They kind of just stumbled on it. Like normally Indiana Jones is sent on a quest for something.
Yeah.
And that one kind of broke the mold because he was on his way to somewhere else and just kind of stumbled on this.
Yeah.
So I think that was part of it. I think it was kind of a weak-ish storyline, but we have Ki-Hai Kwan because of it.
Yes.
And he's Data too in the Goonies.
Yeah, I remember me and you watching him win the Oscars, and like both of us got kind of teary-eyed.
Oh my gosh.
Emma's like, "Why are you crying?"
Because he's our age.
Yeah.
He's literally he was our age in those movies.
And we literally watched him like up and down, and go away and come back. It was kind of fun.
It was wonderful. I'm so glad he is doing so well and getting parts.
And then he would do interviews saying that he couldn't get jobs because he was an Asian actor. So he started working in like stunts. And there was a rumor, and I don't know if it's true, but somewhere along the line, he is like a partial stunt coordinator in the Matrix movies. I don't know if that's true at all. Someone used to tell me that he was a key master, but I watched that last night. That's not him.
Well, let me tell you, we'll take a tangent right now. You put on the second Matrix movie last night, and then at like 4 a.m., you turned on the third one.
Yeah.
You rolled over and went back to sleep. And I was wide awake. I laid there for 2.5 hours watching Matrix Revolution.
Oh,
because I had to finish it.
Because now I have to.
I didn't remember it really.
I remember when they shut down the 101 for Matrix 2 in LA. I just moved there and they shut down the 101. That was fucking crazy. It's like one of the 3 busiest freeways in the world, and they just shut it down because Hollywood.
Well, they do that.
Because Hollywood is just one big movie set, whether you like it or not. They shut my apartment building down while I was moving in for Constantine. That was horrible. I had to move all my stuff myself in a U-Haul, and I had to park the U-Haul downstairs. You've seen that apartment. So I had like that down area to go through to take my stuff in. I couldn't go through the front door. I had to go through the garage to move everything in. It took me a whole weekend by myself. No one wanted to help me because there was nowhere to park. Because the film production crew was taking up all the spots that were empty. And that area over by that Scientology building, there's no parking anyway.
There's no parking. You have to just circle the block for could be hour or two.
And then I had to move into that apartment. I parked the U-Haul by that little door that you could open with a key. And that door slammed shut real fast. So I pull something out, door shut. Got to use the key to open the door up again. And then push my bed through. It was horrible.
Yeah.
Thanks, Constantine.
Yeah.
Thanks, Keanu. It's all you. And then
Be kind of Keanu.
And then there's only like a scene, but they shot while I was trying to move. There's only one scene in the movie. So it took them 3 days to shoot that damn scene. It took me 3 days to move into my apartment too.
All right, so we've talked about Raiders, Temple of Doom. What did you think about The Last Crusade?
I thought it was cute.
Honestly, I think it's my favorite because of the whole adventure part of it and solving the clues to get to the poor old knight sitting there just waiting. I felt so bad for him.
I didn't.
He was such a cute old man.
That was his job.
He was waiting.
I wonder if there's people that think that there's an old man still waiting with the Grail.
Well,
Did that old man drink from the Grail, and that's how he was able to stay there for so long?
Yeah, he's been there. He was there for, I forget how, like 800 years or something.
I love that movie for the real locations.
Oh yeah, it was
Something you miss out for now.
Mm-hmm.
Like now they'll send a B unit out there to shoot the location, then fill it in.
Yeah.
Sometimes, not all the time. Or they'll be at a location, they'll know that they can't get the trucks and the lights and all that other stuff into the location. So they'll be like a couple miles away from the location. Like if it's a desert scene, they will shoot it from like, a couple miles away, but they'll have like a B unit go in there and shoot what they need for the outdoors. And then they'll use that Unreal technology. And it's a massive green screen that curves. So it looks like they're working in that space.
Yeah.
Kind of neat. And probably saves a ton of money, but man, the real locations in those movies were phenomenal. And
it was.
And you don't get that anymore. Like that whole castle where they walked in, all that stuff. That stuff's really there. Like you could still really visit it if you want to. It's actually, I don't know, to be honest with you, it's such a iconic place. I don't even know how they got the okays to work at the location in the first place. Now, obviously, like they shoot the inside, it's not the inside of the building.
No.
But I mean, that building that was embedded into the wall, just like in Arizona, there's a building that's embedded in the wall there. Kind of the same situation. It would be great to go there.
It would.
Just to see it.
I just felt bad for that night. He warned him, don't take the Grail across the seal. Of course, you got the crazy Nazi lady who thinks she's got it. She's going to get it. And then the poor man is standing there and all the rocks are falling in. And he's like, I'm still stuck here. Like, does he get to leave? Because the Grail went into the ground.
I think he just gets to die.
Does he?
Yeah, I think he's like, that's my chance to die.
He's like, I'm out.
Didn't he like get up off like the stool or whatever he was sitting in and like almost fall?
Yeah, because he tried to like fight.
Oh yeah, he's like, ugh.
Because his first instinct is to fight whoever comes in.
Wildly swings his sword at someone.
You have chosen poorly.
That was great. That was so funny.
I always love to see the Nazis' faces.
I always find it funny that in those movies, even all the way up to like Captain America, the Red Skull guy, all these movies are people that work for Hitler, but they're always looking to overthrow Hitler. Every single one of them.
Well, that was the whole thing of those,
But the funny part is like, they're all just a little bit more nuts than Hitler in the first place.
I love Red Skull. The Red Skull. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Is Red Skull?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's awful.
Yeah. But his whole thing was I can't even remember the name of their society or whatever.
Oh, no, I can't either.
More looking up. This is what happens when you don't research before you start. Or because the way we're doing it, we try to just throw it all off the cuff.
I know.
But no matter what movie you're looking at, if it's people that are under Hitler and that's what's involved and they're trying to overthrow Nazis and all that stuff, the bad guy is always planning to be ahead of Hitler, to move above him.
Mm-hmm.
It almost seems like that. I'm pretty sure there's movies out there that I haven't seen that's not the case. But the big blockbuster type movies, which I love.
Hydra.
Yeah, Hydra. That's it. All Hail Hydra.
Mm-hmm.
And they did the same thing. It was like a Nazi salute and everything. Yeah. Hail Hydra instead of Hitler. But yeah, they're always, it's funny how they're always looking to overthrow Hitler too. They're like, I'm going to keep this for myself. In Raiders of the Lost Ark, they had the Ark. They were going to test it. They opened it up. But those people actually told you their plans were to be ahead of Hitler.
Right. Well, because Hitler's whole plan, he loved the occult. Yeah. So it fed into all that junk because he loved looking for artifacts and wanted this crazy edge. So
I wonder if that was the intention originally for Temple of Doom. And then like the studio's like, let's do something that's not Hitler.
Maybe. Let's lean out.
Hitler's been gone for like 50 years. Let's cut that
move
back.
On.
We'll move on to other occultish type people. But they didn't have, that one guy was looking to take over like a tribe, but he wasn't really looking to take over the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's
why that movie was an oddball.
Yeah, because it didn't feel like Indiana Jones saved the world. He just saved
this one little village.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they drove through the village and
returned all the children.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, they were using the children as slaves to dig out. Shoot, if you think about it correctly, they're probably just trying to get rich, and they had the kids just like digging out gold. That might as well have been it. But they're using children.
All right, so got Indiana Jones. So what's the next one? So that's 3.
The Legend of the Lone Ranger.
Really?
Yeah, with Christopher Lloyd as the bad guy, Butch Cavendish, and a dude. And a dude who played Lone Ranger, I've never heard of him acting again. Never heard of him. And it was horrible too. I watched it like 2 years ago. It was pretty bad, but it was a Lone Ranger and it was fun. But it had explosions and Arizona desert. It was great too. And I think I was pretty young for that as well. And I think both my parents, like we went and saw that movie and me and my brother loved it. I think my parents hated it.
The Legend of the Lone Ranger, 1981.
Yeah. See, right there, same time.
Yeah.
Had all the toys. They were the same size as, and that's funny. We were talking about toys from the beginning. They were the same size as the G.I. Joes and Star Wars toys, so they fit right in.
Bad guy Butch Cavendish, like you said, leads an ambush on the Texas Rangers, gunning down all but the young John Reed, played by Clinton Spilsbury.
Yeah, see? I've never heard of him being in anything ever again.
That's wild.
I'll bet that's on YouTube.
I don't think I ever saw that.
Oh my gosh, I saw it in the theaters twice. We went once with my parents.
Wow, that was a big deal back then, seeing something more than once in the theater.
Yeah, we saw that once with my parents and once with the babysitter. Because my parents.
Funny.
Yeah, it was great. It was so much fun. They blew up a bridge. Butch Cavendish kidnapped Ulysses S. Grant. And I think Ulysses S. Grant was a name actor. Mm-hmm. I think Christopher Lloyd was their star, so to speak. But they killed all the Rangers at the beginning of the movie in the canyon. And like they had all these dumb lines and stuff like that. Like the Rangers were at the bottom of the canyon and the Butch Cavendish gang was at the top of the canyon. Basically, I got higher ground. Boom, boom, boom. You're all we're just picking you off. But they had like the one guy, the main guy, Reed, was new, so he had never killed anybody. It's unlike the newer Lone Ranger movie where he was like a lawyer. This guy just wasn't anything. He was just, his brother was a ranger, so he became a ranger, and they went into that canyon looking for Butch Cavendish, and they picked them all off except him, and they shot him up pretty good. But then Tonto's down there. Basically, I think, to be honest with you, I think Tonto was down there looking for shit he could sell. He was taking boots off people and guns and all that other stuff, because why else is he in the bottom of a canyon? He wasn't looking for people that were living, but he found one. So now he can't steal the other guy's crap. Finds one, teaches him how to shoot. So there's the whole like montage scene where he's like getting better and body's getting better. You know, the montage is just like Rocky and all those other movies. Mm-hmm. What was it? South Park again. Gotta have a montage. Even Rocky had a montage.
Well, even today, Deadpool was like, here, cue the montage.
Yes, exactly.
Always a montage.
And then I had him like shooting a cactus and picking all the needles off the cactus. So shooting them one on one. So he became like this great guy. And then Tonto introduced him to the silver bullet. These shoot straight. Fun movie. And look, I was like 9 again. So, and then the last one's going to be Star Wars. That's kind of,
obviously,
that's kind of a miss if we haven't already discussed that one, but yeah.
I was 3 when it came out in 1977. You were 5.
Yeah.
Do you remember it?
Yeah.
Do you remember seeing it?
Yeah, I remember, and you'll laugh at this. I remember when I was a kid, there was like a whole like introduction of the movie on TV.
No.
They were like pushing it.
I didn't remember that.
I thought Darth Vader was the good guy based off of those promos, because they kept showing him and they played dun, dun, dun. They played the Darth Vader music and everything like that. But it seemed like they were promoting him, which, I mean, he is the star of the movie. No matter how you look at it, he is the one that everyone remembers. People will remember Luke Skywalker as the good guy, but he's just like a young farm kid. Dun, dun, dun. Like it's mythology that's been spanning the dawn of time. But I remember that. I remember thinking, because again, I was 5 and we watched the promo. I remember thinking R2-D2 and C-3PO were the heroes. No joke. I don't remember where this promo came from. It was seriously like a half hour, and it was on like some television show, but it's what sold us to go see the movie, because you'd never heard of George Lucas or any of that stuff.
And they were really worried. They thought it was going to be a flop.
Yeah.
They really didn't think it was going to do anything much.
But I believe it was like, that was like the dawn of like those HBO first looks. Where they had like, 10 minutes of the movie being shot, and they interviewed a couple actors and stuff. And they started doing this a lot, especially for movies they expect to be blockbusters, but they have to introduce you to everything. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. I missed that Han Solo shot first. I don't have a VHS player, nor do I know if my dad has the original Star Wars VHSs. If he has them, honestly, he probably doesn't have the official version, but he has like a version we recorded off cable.
Oh, maybe.
But it's out there somewhere. I don't think it's going to be a clean enough version to watch on TV at the house, though.
Yeah, probably not.
But apparently, like, we're never going to see that again. It's never going to be a thing. They're not going to re-release it this way or anything.
They're missing an opportunity.
There was legend had it that George Lucas destroyed it.
Why?
I don't have a clue.
Guess I'll have to ask him.
Because that's not what he wanted to do, and I don't know.
All right.
Because he didn't want him to be such a scavenge. What was the word that Princess Leia used?
Oh,
scallywag.
Yeah, something
Silly like that. But yeah. But I mean, it had silly dialogue, which is all I needed for 5. But it had a lot of action, a lot of stuff.
I just remember I was 3. Obviously, we saw it at a drive-in about 5-10 minutes away from Jackson, and I only remember very brief bits and pieces. But I remember sitting there watching it. I remember that big note, John Williams, soundtrack of our lives, that we were talking about that the other day. That man is literally the soundtrack of Generation X. 100%.
All our movies.
Yep. My whole life has been John Williams. But I just remember hearing that note and seeing that Star Wars across the screen. And I just remember how it made me feel, and that I just love movies since that point.
Now, let me ask you this. I didn't pay attention to things like the Oscars when I was a kid, but I remember this. And I wonder if you think this, because my brother will tell me really the same answer I will give. E.T. lost out to Gandhi. Gandhi won Best Picture.
I remember when Gandhi won. I remember that happening.
I saw Gandhi that year. I was like, that's not better than E.T., but I was also a little kid.
It wasn't for us.
Yeah, I know.
It was
a political movie.
Right.
But I saw it, and I was like, there's no way.
Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh, our whole family went to see E.T. My mom, my sister, bawling the whole thing. Wasn't a dry eye in the house. That movie theater was packed to the gills to see E.T.
I remember the little old lady sitting next to my brother crying her eyes out.
Oh, I cried
because we all thought that he died, that the kid died because he got sick like E.T. So you thought both of them were going to die and everything like that. And then you just get all happy when everything works its way out. And now in that era of, well, I guess my question was, do you feel like E.T. was ripped off back then? Or do we just not know?
Well, as a kid, I would have thought that. But I don't know. Gandhi is an amazing movie.
Yeah.
Ben Kingsley. I mean, my God. But from a kid's point of view, I would have thought that.
I would have totally thought Henry Thomas would win the Oscar for Best Actor. He cried. He was funny. He did everything in there. He's the star of the show. He was attached to E.T. E.T. got drunk, so he got drunk in class.
I know. I can, now that I'm an adult, I can 100% like separate myself from the way I felt as a kid. Like, yeah, I can understand why I felt that way, but yeah. So funny.
But yeah, I remember watching the Oscars, and I only recall like that was the first time I ever watched it. I know. Henry Thomas should be at least nominated. This is baloney. But my brother will tell you the same thing, because like we got older, we sort of followed the Oscars and stuff like that. And I started working with some of those people and like getting excited for them. My brother would tell you the same thing. I don't care about the Oscars. Remember when we watched and we thought that E.T. should have won? Wasn't that bullshit? My brother would probably still tell you that. And he's turning 50 right after summer.
I know.
That's bullshit. E.T. got robbed. Oh. And then Steven Spielberg had to make a Nazi movie to win Best Picture.
Schindler's List.
He had to make a movie about escaping Nazis.
It was a wonderful movie.
To win. And that's like the only time he's ever won. I thought Steven...
That's another movie I cried most of the time in it.
I didn't make out like I did, like Jerry Seinfeld did during that movie. Actually, I never saw that movie until we saw it. We rented it and I saw it. That was the first time I saw it.
I saw it in a theater.
I kind of avoided it. Like I avoided Titanic until...
Heavy movie.
I avoided Titanic until it was about out of the theater.
I'm going to go ahead and admit it. I saw that movie no less than 7 times in the theater. And I'm not joking.
Oh my gosh. That's a week of work.
Yeah. I think I saw it about 7 times.
Yeah, that's more than a 30-hour work week.
Mm-hmm. I must have been going through it for some reason during that time. Because I watched that movie relentlessly. I loved it.
I loved James Cameron was on Entourage once, and he was like scouting the main character to be in his next movie. And he's in the line at Sundance to watch the movie, and he's ordering popcorn. Some woman like walks up to him and asks him, and she's like, "Does it mean like this, and this?" And James Cameron looks her right in the face and goes, "No, I just wanted to make little girls cry."
I just remember it was such a big deal because it was so huge. I remember, I don't know what movie I was seeing, but I remember seeing that teaser trailer for it. And all that it was like, it was like the ocean. And then from what I remember, and it's kind of hazy, but it's like you saw the back of the ship and just the Titanic. And then that was it. That was the teaser for it. I was like, oh my God, because I love anything Titanic.
I mean, Titanic came out in a year that was incredible movies. There was like Pulp Fiction, No, wait, Pulp Fiction came out the year of Forrest Gump. But no, Good Will Hunting, LA Confidential.
1997.
As good as it gets. All three of those movies were up against Titanic. And I thought all three of those movies were better than Titanic.
Yeah, Titanic was 1997.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, Good Will Hunting wins Best Writing. That's kind of it. LA Confidential, which is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And then As Good as It Gets wins both actor and actress awards, but doesn't win Best Picture. I personally thought that those were better than Titanic. I'm not saying that they are, but for me, they were. Titanic is still an incredible achievement for someone that didn't use a whole lot of CGI.
Oh, this was interesting. I didn't remember all that what was up in 1997. So here's a rundown. Yeah, Best Actor, Jack Nicholson, As Good as It Gets.
Amazing too. Like he had OCD and he hit that pretty right on the nose.
Oh, that was also the year of Wag the Dog.
Yeah, the political satire.
Robin Williams won for Good Will Hunting, which was such a good movie. Helen Hunt won for As Good as It Gets.
Was that supporting actress or actress? I can't remember.
Actress.
Okay. Yeah, see, so it wins Best Actor and Best Actress. I was surprised that it didn't do better outside of that.
Oh, that was also the year Gattaca won for art direction. I love
that's a really
Gattaca.
good movie. And it kind of deserved it, but I'm surprised because the art direction for Titanic was so huge too.
Oh, man, this was a good year for movies. It was the same. Titanic, Amistad came out that time. I liked Amistad. What else?
Wasn't it a movie about people bringing a slave ship over?
I don't think I ever saw that.
Yeah, that was Scorsese.
Oscar and Lucinda, Wings of the Dove.
I didn't see that.
Full Monty.
That was a weird movie. It was cute.
It was cute. It was funny.
Yep.
The Sweet Hereafter. Let's see. What else? Air Force One was up for film editing.
That sounds about right. Usually those action movies, if they hit the beats the way they need to, they do really well.
Yeah.
As far as that goes.
But yeah, it was a good year for movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Best Picture, the nominees were Titanic, As Good as It Gets, Full Monty, Good Will Hunting, and LA Confidential.
Yeah, I liked all those movies. For me, because I'm a guy, I liked all those movies more than I liked Titanic. That makes sense. But Titanic was going to win. They spent the most.
It was an achievement.
They spent the most money. Their set decorations and everything like that was spot on.
I mean, James Cameron was just, you can tell he's a type A personality. Like everything was just impeccably flawless for that production.
I hung out with a girl who was a camera assistant on that movie, and she's really nice. She said she worked on Titanic. She was a second camera assistant. So basically her job was to do film reels and that kind of stuff. She said every day James Cameron would come into the office and ask him if they got a 14th camera. And she would have to be the one to say, James, you need to order a 14th camera. That means they have 13 cameras to shoot stuff. And he asked about this every single day. And then she said, at the end of the movie, it's pretty typical that, and it seems really weird that all the crew does this, but they thank the director by giving him a gift. The gift for James Cameron that year was a pair of jeans. The pair of jeans had the ass ripped out of the jeans. And people signed the jeans saying things like, I worked for Oliver Stone, don't ever call me again. But basically, like they had like one of those little trophy things at the bottom. James Cameron, thanks for making Titanic, blah, blah, blah. But it said at the bottom, you ripped our ass so much that we wanted to give you our jeans.
He probably loved it.
He had it hanging in his office when I interviewed for a job.
Oh, that's right.
He had it hanging in his office.
You did interview with James Cameron.
When I interviewed with James Cameron, he had this hanging in his office. So for what it's worth, though, all those people signed those jeans, told him not to ever call me again. I'll never work with you again, blah, blah, blah. They were certainly happy to wear all their Titanic gear that they got, the Titanic hats that said Titanic Crew on them, or their Titanic t-shirts on every set they ever worked on again. They would wear those things until they wore the fuck out, which was really, really funny.
It's almost like a Devil Wears Prada moment, because if you can finish a production with James Cameron, you can probably work with just about anybody, because you can stand anything.
And that's what he tells his assistants when they're going to work for him. That's like thing number one that he says. You're mine 25 hours a day, 8 days a week. Don't expect to call your parents at any given time. I may need something.
God.
Most people don't last 6 months with me. He's like, the job pays $200,000 a year. You will probably earn half that because you won't last that long. He tells you that. It like him, not like the former assistant. Like there was this whole movie called Swimming with Sharks.
Oh, yeah.
With Kevin Spacey, and Kevin Spacey played this guy. And allegedly the guy who directed and wrote it, it was about his experiences with the producer. It's an old movie. I don't recall it, but the dude did things to him on purpose. Like it was Frank Whaley who was the assistant. Obviously he's like taking notes while the producer's like saying stuff about movies that he needs to make and shots and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, I need to go to the bathroom. And he got up to go to the bathroom, and Kevin Spacey was like, sit the fuck down. He's like, I got to go to the bathroom. He's like, you go to the bathroom when I let you go to the bathroom. And then he would do things like take his water bottle and dump it into a cup slowly. So it'd be like, it'd sound like peeing, just like he'd turn on the faucet.
Oh, yeah.
He would do nasty shit to him like this all the time. He knew that he was out on a date. He would call him and tell him he needs to come into the office for nothing.
That's terrible.
I need to make sure all the pencils are sharpened for tomorrow morning. Stupid stuff like that. I imagine that if he worked for James Cameron, that's kind of the way it was.
I imagine so.
He tried, like, I've seen him, like, he doesn't seem like a bad person. It just seems like
he's a perfectionist.
Yeah, his work is his work. His name is the only name on everything.
Yeah.
So he's got all his balls in a row, and he needs to make sure that everyone else working with him does too.
Right. Well, and honestly, there are articles out there that talk about how much of a type A personality he is. So it's no surprise that he would.
And there's some actors that won't work with him any longer. It's too bad because he does make great movies.
He does.
Arnold Schwarzenegger seemed to not have a problem. 2 Terminators. When he produces Terminator movies, he's on those. True Lies.
He just puts everything he has into it, and he expects you to do the same.
And he does like not make a movie for like 5 and 6 years at a time.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for it. I'm not going to sit here and badmouth James Cameron, but he seemed like a tough person to be around.
I imagine. Yes. Based on the level of his productions and everything. Yeah. I imagine.
And that's why Titanic won everything.
Yeah. He just knew what he wanted.
I do love the idea of James Cameron standing up at the Oscar podium with all his Oscars going, I'm the king of the world. You were. Probably still are. Everyone would die to be in your movie. They could read all these articles and listen to all these people talk about how possibly he's a horrible person. They'll all still line right up.
Oh, sure. Even
A-list people. Benicio del Toro would stand in line to audition for James Cameron. Yeah. People that don't audition anymore. James, like, I need an audition tape. Okay, I'll make it. And they'll spend money to do it. I just saw this thing with a comedian, and he was doing a podcast with Kevin Smith. And he was talking to Kevin Smith about how he made Clerks for like 25 grand and how Kevin's like more laid back and he doesn't yell at anybody, that kind of thing. He doesn't have any hate on set, that kind of thing. The comedian was saying, I tried to do just these short films, just a kind of like introduce what the film is so I could pass it around to studios and see if someone would take it. Mm-hmm. He's like, I spent $1.25 million on those. And Kevin Smith's like, oh, what the fuck? So this guy, it's like, Kevin makes Clerks and that makes his career. Like he's able to move forward in a career forever. Mm-hmm. This comedian, and I want to say it's Tom Segura, was telling Kevin Smith that I made promos for stuff that I hope someone would take.
Oh, for $1 million.
For $1.25 million. That's how much it costs to make just something out of nothing. That's what it costs to make that. So imagine James Cameron, who was a truck driver, who went to USC just to go into the library and learn how to do this stuff. He didn't actually go to film school, from what I understand. If I remember correctly, he was on Howard Stern saying that he did not go to film school, but he knew everything about film because he would drive truck for 12 hours a day. Then he'd be at USC Film School just studying.
Yeah, and that's why he's the way he is. Like
Yeah.
he's just so committed to doing that.
And
It's
I imagine like after his first movie, he's like, I'm not fucking going back to driving trucks.
probably not. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's when he got picky and got
Yeah.
like, I'm going to put a needle in every single thing here. No one's going to write a single word without my needle in it.
I get it to a point because when I'm at work, I'm a kind of a different person. I'm very much more of a type A because I need to make sure that things are done a certain way.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine what it would be like on a film set trying to direct all these different channels. Like you've got art and you've got costumes and you've got, your stunt people, like making sure everyone's doing their job.
Yeah.
So you can focus on making the movie. Like seems very difficult.
That's what coordinators in the 80s are for. That's why his department
But you have to trust them wholeheartedly. And
yeah, your department heads have to know what you want right off the bat.
Yes.
But I'm imagining like James Cameron like puts a pin in like every costume, every stitch.
Oh, yeah.
Some directors don't, like they trust like their art departments.
I imagine he would be the kind of person that would want to like sign off on.
Because there was stories that like the people that made the spoons in Titanic, those were the same spoons that they had on the Titanic.
Yeah, well, he visited Titanic several times.
Oh, yeah.
And when he made The Abyss.
Yeah, he lives underwater.
Yeah, that's what he does. He is actually a professional diver, like undersea diver. So, yeah.
But like the curtains in the Titanic were made by the company that made the curtains in the Titanic. That's how attention to detail.
And that's a movie that's going to win because it's just.
Yeah. It's hard to, it's hard to overlook the detail. I hate to put it this way, but like Good Will Hunting, there's a big scene in like Robin Williams' office. They could have walked into any office and shot that. They just walk into a professor's office, change a couple things around so that the colors work out right, but it could have been any professor's office. Yeah. We're not looking at the books in the background. We're not looking at all the titles and everything like that. But James Cameron is like, the spoon needs to have the company's name written right here on the lower right-hand side. Because
at that point, they had actual artifacts that had already brought up from the Titanic from the 80s. So it was, and they knew like what everything looked like on that ship. So it was very important that it all looked the same.
Yeah. Yeah. There's people that like.
You're doing something based on real life, then you have to get it right or it just looks cheap.
Meanwhile, it wasn't based on real life at all.
Well,
the story itself
was real.
Yeah, everything else was, but the story itself, like they went into so much detail that how it sank.
Yeah,
like that was important to them for a 3.5 hour movie. It's pretty nuts too.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So like, that art direction, that set design, I can't believe it won more awards.
I know.
That should have been like Lord of the Rings winning. Remember Lord of the Rings, like it won so many awards that Billy Crystal said, right now, at this moment in time, people are moving to New Zealand just so they could get thanked in one of the awards. That's how many awards it won. But again, that's another one that's a massive undertaking. That was 3 movies. That was so special effects driven. It's unbelievable. I mean, John Rhys Davies is very tall. He's taller than I am. Elijah Wood is taller than my ankle. But they made them that short. If you see like behind the scenes photos of stuff, like you'll see Elijah Wood standing next to a little kid. And then the little kid's in the scene because it's the back of him and they need to make him look short. So he's talking to Viggo Mortensen and it's a child.
Yeah.
And cut to Elijah Wood speaking and it's a close up of his face.
Yeah.
Like it's like shoulder up.
Yeah, I like those movies a lot too.
Yeah.
They're very good.
I remember seeing those movies with my parents and just going to like the last movie. And like, we're talking about how great the last movie was. My mom's like, it was awful. I'm like, what was awful about it, Mom? Jesus, what are you talking about? And she goes, and I'm not kidding. She said, the people sitting next to her were farting so badly.
Was it you?
No, I wasn't. Like, we go to the movies. Me and my brother sit next to one another when we go as a family, because we'll chit chat.
Oh, yeah.
My parents will stare at the screen.
Yeah.
But my mom somehow always sits on the end. She's always sitting next to strangers. She said that these guys were farting and saying things like, oh, it's so much better out than in. That's her, what she remembers of the 3rd movie of Lord of the Rings.
That's a shame.
It's kind of funny though.
It is kind of
I
funny.
mean, it's horrible that like a person. This is why people
And that
don't.
movie was long.
She said it was going on the whole movie too. It's not like one
awful.
time. She's like, and then I had to smell it, and then it would go away, and then they do it again. She's like, and the guy next to him kept getting up to go get sodas and food.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. It's a 3.5-hour movie, but you
Yeah.
should have all your shit before the movie starts. Come on. Honestly, you should be done with your shit before the movie starts. You've sat down long enough. These days, maybe not so much because you can get assigned seats and you can walk in during the trailers if you want to. But for the most part, I buy candy or popcorn or some shit at the movies. I'm done with it.
Yeah.
Before the movie even starts, like credits rolling, I might like have like a quarter bag of popcorn left. That doesn't even get eaten. It just sits in the seat next to me the whole time. I'm not going to sit there and munch on food. Dude, this conversation's gone off the rails.
No,
We're talking about dudes farting at theater.
Well, that's a risk you take when you go to the movie theater.
I got to be honest with you. I think that's why people don't go to the movies.
I was just going to say that a lot of people and especially since COVID, people are grossed out by public places, like sitting there that long next to people. But I still, overall, I would choose to go to a movie theater. Hands down. Like for Dune, those new Dune movies, IMAX all the way.
Yeah.
Like, it is such a good movie, meant to be on a big screen. And you just lose something when it's on a TV at home.
It is. No matter how big your TV is.
I will always love the experience of going to movies. And it goes all the way back to seeing Star Wars.
Yeah, because it was just so much fun.
The first time I think it's the first memory I have of watching a movie was Star Wars.
You want to hear something funny? I bet I've mentioned this to you before, but that 20th Century Fox music.
Oh, yeah.
For a longest time, and even every once in a while now, if I hear that and it's on TV, I come rushing out thinking Star Wars is on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Even though it's like tons of other movies, they use the same exact thing for 20 years. I will still sit there and think that that's Star Wars.
Yeah.
And then I'll be disappointed for a minute. Like,
yeah.
That's a fucking Kevin Hart movie. No offense, Kevin Hart.
I know. I love Kevin Hart.
You're a pretty funny guy, but it's just not Star Wars. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
It could be Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, which is a fun movie.
Yes.
That's fun.
Those are fun.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well,
all right. So that's 5 when I was a kid, some when I was an adult. What do you think your 5 are? Do you stray much further from me? I know Goonies is in there somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So when I was little, and you're going to laugh at one of these. When I was little, Star Wars would be my number 1, obviously. Number 2, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Loved it. Loved it. It was always on TV like once a year. It was one of those times they would always play it. Loved it because I love the Bee Gees.
Okay.
I also loved The Wiz when I was little.
That was one of those
and
movies.
And these are all like young.
Yeah, that was one of those movies I saw on like those Wednesdays for 50 cents.
Yep. I have fond memory. Flash Gordon, the 80s one. My dad took me to the movie theater to see that. And then after it was over, he took me next door and bought me the album, the soundtrack.
Aww.
Yes.
The soundtrack's good though.
Yes. So I love that one. And then, Goonies. I will watch that movie every time it's on.
I know. Huh?
For me, because they're like our age. Yeah. That was 100% kids our age in that. So
you know what's funny is like we say that I'll watch it every time it's on. Things aren't on anymore.
You're right. And probably to clarify, if I'm like scrolling the queue,
like Netflix or something like
the
that,
Netflix queue or something, I'll be like, oh, the Goonies. Like I would totally watch it.
Yeah, but I find that weird too. It's not on anymore. It's not like
USA's Groovy Movie. Remember when they did that on Saturday?
Or like ABC's Sunday Night at the Movies, and it would kind of be a Disney movie almost every time. Mm-hmm. I did that a lot, but things aren't on anymore. Like they're there, like, but we don't scroll through the TV guide any longer. We don't go through the guide on TV either. No. We either turn on regular TV for news or sports. Mm-hmm. Sometimes other things, but not often. We watch like television shows like Ghost, but for the most part, we would record those and watch them later. Mm-hmm. It used to be that you could fast forward through the commercials, but not anymore.
Yeah,
I remember working at Dish, and like certain channels wouldn't allow anyone to scroll through scroll. You had to wait 7 days, and then you could scroll through the commercials. Mm-hmm. So So basically, you had to wait until the next episode was on if you recorded it.
Oh my goodness.
What are you at? You're at 4 now.
Was that 4?
Yeah, I think so. Might have only been 3.
No, it was
Let's cut back to them. Goonies, Star Wars,
The Wiz, Sergeant Pepper.
Sergeant Pepper. That's 4.
I would say Indiana Jones.
Okay, for some of the same reasons as mine, because it's an adventure
it's just-
movie that
that's
just took off.
That was our generation. Like that was, well, and then E.T. It's like all of those movies was just, they were all wonderful.
And now we understand why Steven Spielberg was narrating the Paris Olympics opening.
Yeah.
Dude, I spent weeks thinking that he was like going to direct the opening, or why was he promoting it without like having at the bottom of the screen saying Steven Spielberg? Because honestly, he's a director. He doesn't make appearances in his movies like M. Night Shyamalan or Quentin Tarantino or something like that.
Emma didn't know who he was.
Most people don't know who he is. Like, just by looks of seeing, most people don't know who he is.
Yeah.
Oh, so I got a weird question for this one. Why did they always play The Wizard of Oz on Easter?
For us, we thought it was really funny. It was always around Easter time. But here, it's also tornado season. The height of tornado season every year was a Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, it seemed like it was always. It was the 10 Commandments with Charlton Heston and Wizard of Oz.
And in that same vein, when I was young, because of that, I always thought, my mom always liked to watch old movies. Every time she would turn on a black and white movie, I always thought it was The Wizard of Oz. I'm like, oh, is The Wizard of Oz on? No, this is something else.
And then they colorized like 3/4 of it. And you were there, and you were there, and who are you?
But yeah, it was always on in the spring.
Why is everyone I know in my bedroom?
And I can still recite every single line.
That's sick.
From that movie.
There's one person looking forward to the Wicked movie.
Yeah, I am. I've seen the Broadway show.
I know, I went with you once.
Several times.
I went with you once. You went with my mom once. You took Emma and my mom once too, so.
And I took my mom once.
There's 3.
So I went 3 times.
All right, you sicko. No, it's okay. It's actually good. I think we saw Up 5 times, so it's not like it's a big difference.
That's a good one.
Or we fell asleep during Wall-E like several times. Remember that? Like we just had a baby and we're just tired as shit. Like, let's go to the movies.
It's a great movie. It's fantastic storytelling with very few words.
The whole thing in the spaceship with all the people and stuff like that, I don't remember seeing that in the theater at all. I remember sleeping through it all. And then Wall-E is saving the ship and everyone landing. I'm like, where'd these people come from?
We were very, very tired.
I remember telling my dad he looks like the people in the movie. He just slumped over on the couch all the time. Oh, today's color's red. Ka-ding! Red clothes. Red onesie for the adults.
By and large.
And everyone's butts came down to their knees, so that when they actually had to get up and walk, they're like, "Oh my God, we have a pool."
Yeah, they had no idea what was going on.
I know, they just been loafing
like
around
in the screen.
Yeah, loafing around on this couch for hundreds of years. Didn't they say something like this is year 207?
Yeah,
of the ship.
Mm-hmm.
And then they found one leaf, one little plant in a shoe.
So cute, Eve.
I know, so good.
It was a wonderful movie. Very good.
Those were Pixar's finest hours. That and Up, they're better than Toy Story. I like Toy Story a lot.
I love Up so much because he reminds me of my dad.
Carl Fredrickson's my hero, my personal hero. How could you not want to just get away and move to Brazil, live by a waterfall? Although I think I'd have a hard time sleeping for like the first month.
Yeah, constant.
Sound like
water.
a toilet flushing for several hundred hours. I think it'd take me a while.
Yeah, it would.
And then storms, because that's how the water comes there in the first place. So I think I'd have a hard time. But that would have been fun. That would be fun, especially if you could take your house, if you could just uproot your house like that with balloons.
I know. It's such a cute idea.
Never happened. All your piping and everything like that. Now, imagine if Carl had to, they would go in all the way to Brazil. No one had to go to the bathroom. Not one person had to use the toilet. That is sprayed poop all over Rio. Like, there goes Oklahoma.
And on that note,
that's our time for today.
We're going to wrap it up right there. What a great place to end it. Mike, as always, thank you for joining me today and talking about our favorite thing.
Yeah, that was great.
Movies.
This was great. That was so much fun.
It was fun. We could probably talk about movies
forever.
Several times.
Oh, we're going to totally do TV shows. I'm not very good at TV shows.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at TV shows because I prefer movies, but as like things have gotten like now, like the best work is in television shows.
It is.
The only problem I have with television shows is like half of these shows that are like on Netflix that are like 8 episodes long, could be 2 hours long. They just decided to fill 4 episodes in the middle for no reason at all. Here's a backstory that you didn't need to know.
Yeah, pretty much.
Here's how the Punisher got to be the Punisher. You know what? I saw that when Thomas Jane was the Punisher, start to finish. Killed John Travolta, drug him off with the car. The car was on fire, so it made the Punisher logo out of the cars with the fire, and then roll the credits. No, that's the other thing. No after scene. No, like at the end of the credits. The Deadpool end credit scene was great. It was just like bloopers from all the old X-Men movies and stuff like that. Because I think they're saying goodbye to Fox.
That's what it is. Yeah.
I believe that's what it is. They showed Wolverine. I think Wolverine's going to be around, but I think they're going to recast like all the X-Men. It's obvious they've already recast the Fantastic Four for a second time.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's exactly what that was like, so long, Fox. We're taking Wolverine with us, and we're going to start over with the rest.
It was like the end of the Lethal Weapon 4, where they just showed like all the snapshots of the crew that continue to work on Lethal Weapon movies along with the cast. That was a really cool montage. That was one of the coolest montages.
Yeah.
But now they're going to make Lethal Weapon 5 sometime in the next 10 years. We'll see.
We'll see.
All right. Well, thank you so much, folks.
Yep. Thanks. If you want to talk about your favorite movies or anything else, if you have something from a junk drawer you want to drag out and discuss, please hit me up at mybigfatjunkdrawer@gmail.com, or you can find me at mybigfatjunkdrawer.com. We'll see you next time. Bye.